at least we can see in the garage and let you know what is going on. And what is going on is a rush of people to get out there and do some work, because these are spot on the conditions they'll be having for the rest of the weekend in the sessions that matter. And look at those shiny development tyres on car number 16. Is that Charles Leclerc? I think it is.
It is.
Or is it Sebastian Vettel? That's Sebastian Vettel, 5, of course. But yeah, lots of work to be done. Done is the development and testing work, which has really made up most of free practice 1. So this is the stuff that counts. Lots to talk about, and looking forward to seeing those sparks. Aren't you, Crofty?
Oh,
Best thing about a
absolutely.
night race, especially around here, lit up as a stadium as it is. Not like Singapore, of course, where they can't put all these...
2-6-10.
The steering is still a bit right and down.
Copy that. Can have a look.
So yeah, so we're lit up like a stadium here. Obviously that's not possible in Singapore, because then there's a permanent stadium lights, and they don't really want them around the streets of Singapore. That's why they put the temporary lights up. But here it really is like a giant lit up stadium. Great to see the steering wheels lit up as well, so we can read lots of interesting information on the steering wheels.
Yes, I'm looking at the timing monitor as well, and yes, there is a rush of cars coming out, but everyone, bar Antonio Giovinazzi, are on the development tyres for next year, which, look, the teams understand why Pirelli need to test these tyres, but they could probably do without it in what is the most representative session of the weekend. The fact to do six timed runs on these tyres rather eats in to the time that they want to spend on the soft tyre for this year.
Yeah, but they have to do it. You know, we heard Leclerc's comments from FP1 saying the tyres, he wasn't happy with the tyres, clearly.
Bit understeery, he said.
Well, he said in one lap they're already giving up. And, you know, that's the feedback Pirelli need, because when we get to Melbourne and they're all, you know, potentially going to be moaning about it, you know, Pirelli need to go back and say, look, guys, we need your help. We need you to work with us, which is why they're all out there doing their laps. I noticed, by the way, Bottas using the DAS system, Crofty, on the outlap. So it's probably a good time.
He won't be able to use that next year. So that's not representative, is it?
No, but it gives... Oh, he's understeered off there. Car bottoming out. It sounded like the front end bottomed out. And then...
Doesn't like those tyres then. No, it doesn't look like it, does it?
He's got at least another 6 laps on those tyres as well. Well, 7 now.
Something doesn't look right on the front. Again, there was porpoising
He's
around.
got at least
There,
another
look,
6 laps on those.
there's something not quite right on the front of that car. I heard it bottom out as he turned into turn 6.
Was he saying left hand down? So it could actually
hand
have
down,
some, or right hand down a bit. I mean, that can sometimes not be the steering alignment. It can be actually set up on the car. So it looks like it's a bit low on one side when he's turning. A bit of scraping you can hear from the front wing.
Let's have another look.
Watch here. There, it sounded like when it hit the deck, it just didn't bite, and he went straight on. The track temperature, by the way, 26 degrees, only 1 degree down from what we had earlier today. So that cloud cover we suspected was going to even things out in terms of track temps seems to have done the job.
Yeah, basically, it's stone cold, isn't it, for Bahrain? That is, you know, you normally can cook an egg on the track.
It's very different temperatures to the ones we would normally be experiencing here in Bahrain. Paul McGuinness, David, says, great to have you in the commentary box. Would you have liked to have raced under the floodlights back in the day?
I would have loved to, yeah. I'm trying to think where I didn't get a chance to race anywhere under floodlights. So, yeah, lovely. I mean, I did go testing sometimes in the dark at Paul Ricard when they sent me out to work for Renault, and I did actually point out to them it was dark, but they said, well, we just need 1 lap or 2 laps, and it was fantastic because there were no floodlights. So we had those running strips where it created lots of sparks. So it lit up the whole place, just the sparks pouring off of the car, and I could see where I was going from that. But
Is that not a bit counterintuitive at 200 miles an hour? You know, I could see the sides.
yeah, but you know, it was lovely. It was like a firework display. It was fantastic.
Tyre tests for you in the day, of course, were, you know, 1 or 2 days in Paul Ricard every other week. We're on board with Lewis Hamilton. Developmental tyres for him. Lando Norris joins Antonio Giovinazzi on the hard compound tyre. And Kimi Räikkönen had a lap time deleted for track limits, turn 4. And Sebastian Vettel now as well. Everything Kimi does, Sebastian has to be right there with him as well. It's been the same all season long, it seems. But turn 4, that's the only place at the moment that the FIA are monitoring track limits. So just bear that in mind tomorrow if you see a car go all 4 wheels off the track somewhere else. As it stands at the moment, turn 4, the only one they're monitoring.
And actually, the only other place I think we might see it is here. So turn 13, let's see, Lewis seems to be on a race around with a bit more fuel. But yeah, well, on this lap he's made a mistake. It's wider than he would have liked. But we will see drivers run all 4 wheels over the white line there. That's the only place we really gain lap time.
You don't often see that, do you?
What, Kevin Magnussen passing Lewis Hamilton? I'm sure it's happened, but yes, not very often. Anyway, they're heading down the main straight now towards turn 1. Let's go trackside, shall we? Martin Brundle enjoying the floodlit spectacle. Good evening, Martin.
Good evening. Hello, everybody. I am indeed. It's one of my favourite spots to be when we're out in free practice too, just to see the deceleration of these cars when they rock up into turn 1. And look at the Alfa just steaming up the inside there. The Williams and the Haasers have got really hot brake discs. They're running well over 1,000. You can see them lighting up. Others like Red Bull and AlphaTauri do not. The Ferrari's quite hot on its brakes, but they're basically using obviously different amounts of cooling, but different materials as well in terms. And there's a good example with the 2 Renaults going in there, that the pit exit feeds right into the heart of turn 1, which is why we've seen incidents over the years, of course, where they meet in the middle of that very tight apex. It's not that big a runoff on the outside as Lance Stroll steams in there and hits the brake pedal, and you're pulling over 5G at that point. But the deceleration is absolutely extraordinary. And George Russell's coming down here now. You get an idea of just how hot the front brakes are on that Williams. And then through turn 2, you can see the cars all loaded up. As we see Valtteri Bottas there getting on the power, and they climb up the hill, and the back end of the car really, really complaining with the amount of throttle they're putting on. But plenty of laps going on out here, Crofty, obviously on some unmarked test tyres as well, pretty much all of them, as we see Lewis disappear up towards turn 4, and I'm going to do the same thing.
Thanks ever so much, Martin. Ooh, that was a bit close.
You should have seen that.
Max Verstappen with the racing points of Sergio Perez, I think it might have been, for a little bit too close for company as far as Max was concerned there.
Definitely, a bit of caught him a bit of a surprise. I know it's very difficult to see out of the mirrors here, so you know, if you go on the outside of someone on a corner, you've got to kind of wonder whether or not they've seen you or not. But even so, causes a little bit of an alarm, doesn't it?
Yeah. Here's Pierre Gasly out on the track, 10th in the Drivers' Championship at the moment, Pierre Gasly, which would be the lowest finishing position for a driver that's won a race during the course of a season. Since Pastor Maldonado in 2012, he finished 15th that season after winning in Spain.
15th?
He finished
Wow.
15th, yeah.
I had no idea. In my head, he was sort of 8th, 9th, something like that. That's
To be
extraordinary.
fair, he had a great race in Spain. He didn't do a huge amount else. I think there was another race where he could have finished top 4, but Valencia, didn't he tangle with Lewis Hamilton?
That's right.
In that particular race. And Pierre Gasly, just been on the team radio as well. While Martin was talking, we missed this from our feed, so let's just have a listen to Pierre Gasly getting a bit hot under the collar.
Why doesn't let me buzz this? What the hell? What the hell is he doing? Yeah, what the...
Valtteri Bottas attracting the ire of Pierre Gasly there. Should Valtteri Bottas have moved out of his way?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the Mercedes drivers are clearly running with a fat load of fuel down in the 137s. Gasly up in the 132s, well, he's just on 130, but, you know, 5 seconds. Sorry. Yeah, he is 132.
Yeah.
On mine, so it's 5 seconds off. So, yeah, I mean, Bottas, they're just trying... Bottas trying to do his rhythm and his run and get his consistent data. But, you know, I think in that occasion, Pierre was it right to be aggrieved? Because when you know you're carrying a fat load of fuel, you might as well be respectful to the other guys.
You don't officially, Damon, have to get out of the way, but it is about respect, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you don't. I mean, I do wonder about this sometimes. The drivers getting so irate. You know, it's a racetrack, and no one's got a right to to have a racetrack all to themselves. That's rubbing the whole way down that straight. That's going to get his feet going to get hot, aren't they?
Well, the Renault does tend to run the front of the car quite low. We've seen it all season long. The front end is just buried into the ground much more than other people. Red Bull or the other ones that we see often running like that. Doing quite a high amount of rake. You can see the amount of daylight underneath the rear of the car. This is normally a good place for it. As they drop down the hill, you can see how high the rear is compared to the front. So Ricciardo, Croffy, on a set of the development tyres as well. As you mentioned before, most people still on that tyre. Leclerc on a set of mediums.
As is Sebastian Vettel now as well. But they've got to do 6 laps during the course of this session. Pirelli dictate the numbers for the teams on that one. Even if they ran those tyres during FP1, they want to see how they perform in FP2 as well.
So have Pirelli said we want to see some people on full tanks and some people, and they've obviously elected some people to go full tanks.
I don't think they can do that.
No.
Well, I think they can have quiet conversations with the teams. I don't think they can officially dictate it, but they can try and ask the teams for a bit of cooperation, isn't it? The trouble is, Damon, as you know, you run a car with full tanks of 105, 108 kilos of fuel, then on your next run, if you want to run, 40 or 50, you've got to spend an awful lot of time pumping the fuel out, which is so therefore, it does need a large dollop of cooperation from the teams to agree to do that.
Valtteri Bottas has now come back into the pits, as has George Russell as well. So 18 cars out on the track, and there is a Renault team hoping and keeping their fingers crossed all weekend long that they don't have the same situation during the course of this year's Bahrain Grand Prix as they did last year. Heartbreaking for Renault last year, both cars failing to get to the finish and retiring, both of them with power unit failures on lap 54.
And also, they don't want a situation like they had in Turkey last week, because they went into that weekend third in the championship and came out fifth.
Yeah.
With, one car facing backwards on the opening lap and the other car having run into it.
Yes, contact, wasn't it, for Esteban Ocon with Daniel Ricciardo. Got an excellent start, got up to third, made contact with his teammate, then went off and started making contact with Valtteri Bottas, and not for the last time in the race as well. Never ran in the points and finished 11th, which was Esteban Ocon's Turkish Grand Prix. Meanwhile, Daniel Ricciardo struggled on and eventually got 1 solitary point, which is not a great return for that Renault team. And no, they can't afford another weekend like that. They, at the moment, have 136 points in the Constructors' Championship, which means they're 18 points behind Racing Point in third place. And there's millions on offer for the team.
I was listening to the conversation you had this morning about paying drivers and all that stuff, and pay caps and stuff.
Oh yeah, salary caps.
I mean, salary caps, yeah. And you're thinking there's always this problem with getting drivers to cooperate, and work as a team. And then you've got a situation like you have with the constructors, where very close, very important, worth a lot of money to the team, to whether it's Racing Point or McLaren or whatever. And you really need both drivers to deliver their best performance in those situations. So, what if you were to link more closely the performance, the pay structure of the drivers to the constructors' prize fund? Because then that's a motivation for drivers to actually get the most points for the team, work as a team. So you might actually make them think more, carefully about going down the inside of their teammate and knocking their teammate off. It'd be an interesting mindset change, wouldn't it?
You mean fully explore the potential of win as a team, lose as a team?
Yeah, I think it's worth it to them that they get more points for the team, because the team, in the end of the day, they get paid better.
But do you not think? I mean, surely when you get a points bonus, which most drivers tend to get.
Yeah.
That happens anyway, doesn't it?
If your teammate doesn't finish, it doesn't affect you. That's my point.
If your teammate... An overall constructors' total bonus.
Got it.
All right.
Yeah.
When you were driving, would you have signed up for something like that then? Bearing in mind that the performance of your teammate could affect what you took home at the end of the week.
Well, we're always being told that, the team's the most important thing. I don't know in this sport. I mean, every driver wants to make their name. They want to be, numero uno. And I think that, but sometimes it is important for the team. And I think a kind of...
He's in front of me. He's drifting very nicely.
Yeah, Hamilton.
I think Max knew exactly who that was in front of him there, which is why he made that particular comment. There he goes again.
Got no grip out here.
This is the psychological mind games and banter that's going on between Red Bull and Mercedes there. Look how Lewis Hamilton's struggling on those testing tyres.
Yeah, to be fair, that looks more than psychological, that, doesn't it? I mean, that looks like a genuine grip issue.
Do you think Max Verstappen really didn't know it was Lewis Hamilton in front of him?
No, he did. But that's the banter that was going on. He knew exactly who it was there. Right, hashtag Sky F1. Damon says that a driver's salary should now be linked to the constructor's total points total. It's just a theory to throw out there. Tell us what you think. Ted Kravitz, meanwhile, is in the grandstand.
With the news of Valtteri Bottas, who has pitted, was the first one more or less to come in after the first rash of runs out there, and he's fixed the problem with his steering being a little right-hand down. They've just made a little ride height adjustment as well on the front, checked it over and sent him out again. So well motivated, I think you might say, Valtteri Bottas for this weekend after what would be the right word to describe it, Crofty? Slightly embarrassing. Outpaced considerably by Lewis Hamilton with his own problems at the last race in Turkey. Let's not forget. But Bottas seemingly not able to do what Hamilton did in the same car at all.
Not the first driver, though, Ted, to be lapped by Lewis Hamilton as Hamilton finishes that race and becomes world champion that afternoon.
No, but probably the first teammate to have been lapped by Lewis Hamilton.
No, actually not. Nico Rosberg was lapped in 2014 in the race that Lewis Hamilton won the world championship.
Ouchie. Okay, so
I think
he had the engine issue, didn't he?
He did have problems mechanically that afternoon.
Yeah. Okay. So Valtteri, judging what he was saying by what he was saying yesterday, well motivated to put that right, make amends this weekend. Trouble is, he also highlighted how Red Bull often go very well round here, and the circuit should play to their strengths. So he's going to have a hard job up against not only his teammate, but Max Verstappen, potentially Albon as well.
Very true. Ted, thank you very much indeed. Talking of our chats this morning, that you, as you were just then, Damon, you'll have heard our chat about super license points as well. And very interesting to get Karun and Paul's thoughts on the distribution of super license points. And we made a point, why didn't IndyCar get the same amount of super license points as F2 does? For instance, and Karun, you were right, the champion does get exactly the same points in both series, but after that there is a points difference. And we thought it was a bit unfair that IndyCar, you know, a long established series, gets less points than F2. So I went and had a chat about this in the break. There might be an appetite, you know, at the FIA for things to change in that respect. But it is not up to the FIA to put it on the table. It has to be put on the table by the ASN, by the Motorsport Association in America. And I think that's headed up by a man called George Silverman. I think he's circuits commissioner as well. He is the man that is in charge. And if he wants to, and George, if you're listening today, if you want to, contact the FIA and say, IndyCar, that should have the same amount of super license points as F2. You might find that it will get tabled at the next World Motorsport Council meeting and it will get discussed. I'm not saying it will definitely happen, but it will certainly get discussed.
You can credit Crofty for it.
I feel a sense of purpose today. I really do.
Yeah.
It's just amazing how you can just change. You're changing the course of motorsport history.
You are changing history, Crofty.
You have to be very careful what you say next.
Well, honestly, that's now put so much pressure on my shoulders.
You are such an influencer, Dave.
Karun, I'm not an influencer, but I did go. I had the chat and basically to find out why there was a difference. It's just historical. It's always been like that, but there might be an appetite for change. So, George, if you're listening, or anyone out in the States who knows George, put it on the table. Ask him to change it, and you never know.
I think just moving on back to Red Bull, we're looking at Max here with the going on a brand new set of medium tyres. So they've done their running on the development ones. Few changes this weekend at Crofty down there because their sporting director, Jonathan Wheatley, unfortunately tested positive for COVID last week. I believe he's asymptomatic and actually has had subsequent negative tests. So
we discussed it in FP1.
And he's at home watching on, so you know, hope you're well, Jonathan. And I noticed Philip Turner, the chief mechanic, is sitting on the pit wall next to Christian Horner up there.
I think you'd left the commentary box to go into the paddock by that stage, but we had a chat with that one. Has Jonathan Wheatley texted you yet?
No, I don't know. Do you want me to check?
No, just wondering.
No, he genuinely hasn't. I missed the chat of the first session,
yeah.
so I was heading this back up.
But
Anyway.
yes, no, he is asymptomatic, and
He's still able to use the phone, though, isn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, he's not like banned from communicating or anything, is he?
no, he can still communicate away, as I'm sure he will on that one. We have a bit of a lull because we've now dispensed with the testing tyres. I think that is that it for the testing tyres for today. Can we now talk about these times in a representative session with this year's tyres as well, and start to look at the times a little bit more. Kimi Raikkonen, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, with a 1:30.9 has the fastest time. He is on the medium compound tyre at the moment, and that's this year's medium compound tyre as opposed to a C3 tyre for next year as well. And as you can see, Max Verstappen is out on the mediums himself. Damon, Max Verstappen obviously raced here 5 times before, has driven this track a lot. You've driven this track?
I drove this track, but not in a race, but I was up against some pretty serious competition.
You were?
It was actually a demonstration, but I still count it as one of my greatest victories. I was up against all the world champions that were still living and capable of driving, basically. So the Andretti's, Jones, Alan Jones, Jackie Stewart, no, was it Jack Brabham? Was he really? Yeah, maybe it was. Keke Rosberg, Hakkinen. Yeah, it was a fantastic day out on the track there, and I got to drive my FW18, I think it was. So
you did?
Yeah, my son drove my dad's Lotus 49.
Wow.
Yeah, so Josh got a chance to race against Mario Andretti, which is like
Imagine you're driving a World Championship Williams, and we're on board with Max Verstappen now to help your imagination run riot. Turn the sound up on your TV and listen to the sound of the car around the circuit. And there you go, Max Verstappen with a 1:29.3 with the fastest time of this session so far. It was a 1:28.8 by Sebastian Vettel, the quickest time in last year's FP2 session. I dare say we'll get very close, if not better than that, in a few moments' time. And there, low-speed corners, Verstappen and his Red Bull are top of the table on that one.
I mean, he is a second and a half quicker than anybody else, so we'll see how that changes. Oh, well, 7 tenths quicker than Albon now. But interestingly, Crofty, on the same tyre, that's 3 tenths slower than what Lewis did in the previous session. So maybe the track hasn't really evolved that much. We'll have to see. Or maybe Max still has a fat load of fuel on board.
I would certainly imagine that there's more fuel than you would expect on board at this moment, as Gasly goes second fastest with a 1:29.8, and maybe there's some track evolution to come as well. Right, let's just quickly see Kimi Raikkonen now through the first couple of corners. Oh, that's where Charles Leclerc lit up his tyres this morning, and Kimi Raikkonen having a very similar experience there as he now heads his way up towards turn 4, and that is where Martin Brundle is. Martin.
Yeah, very much at turn 4 as we see a very slow AlphaTauri coming through. And this, of course, is the corner where they keep running wide through the exit and losing their times. And a corner where next weekend they'll immediately turn left and head off into the dunes as Valtteri Bottas steams up the hill. Look at the arrival speed. Picks up the throttle just through the middle of the corner. And then the track falls away, the camber's bad, and so you can see the back of the car moving around, and the driver's quite cautiously on the throttle, actually. And Magnussen there, yeah, hustling. Kevin Magnussen really going for it. He might be on his way out of Formula 1, but he's certainly on his way out of turn 4 very nicely there. as Grosjean then follows him in. Lovely bark now from the engines, if you can get close enough to them. You can just see as they tip the cars in, a little bit of roll, just as the front left tyre loads up on the sidewall and the suspension. And you can sense as soon as the drivers get the load into the outside front tyre, they can then get on with the rest of the corner. So they're driving out through the middle of the corner, absolutely flat out. The Williams are coming through here still with very hot front brakes compared to anybody else. Look how low Lewis Hamilton is in the car. That's something that's really struck me while I've been standing up here waiting, is Lewis sits very, very low in the car. I don't know if he's changed that at all lately, but Albon seems happy enough there. Then the acceleration off the corners, tremendous. So we'll just watch this one through, and I'll hand it back to you, Crofty. Yeah, we've got Bottas. Let's just watch Bottas through here. Quite how they find the ability to overtake in here, I'll never know, because the braking zone is so late. But we do see some great overtakes, literally underneath my left hand here. Back to you. We're going to move round.
Martin, before you go, and I hope you can hear me okay down there, I've seen you do many things in Formula One over the years, including once upon a time being a camera operator. I think it was Interlagos. There is a wonderful jib camera right behind you. What's the chances you could go and operate the jib camera and give us some amazing shots from turn 4 in the next few minutes?
What, and drop that on somebody's head? I don't think so. I think you probably need a bit of training for that. I ain't going anywhere near that. Yeah, I think we, to be honest, we've outstayed our welcome up here already, getting in the way. So, yeah, no. I'd imagine. Yeah, can you imagine dropping that on somebody's head as they came through the corner? It's literally above the cars. Are you getting it in vision? You got it in vision now?
We've got it in vision, yes. I promise you wouldn't. It's perfectly balanced. The strength of a fly could operate that thing. You'd be fine, sir. Don't worry.
It needs coordination. You've got to do two things at the same time.
Yes, and therein lies the problem. I don't know what you're talking about. I thought it'd be a bit like Blue Peter or something.
No, I think he's quite right. I just had a vision of him catching it on the halo and then being spun around and flying through the air. No, I don't
think the camera is hovering over the track, though.
What do you think about the tyres so far?
They just lose so much front grip on the second push.
Right, good for one lap then.
Yeah, and that's the medium tyre, not even the soft tyre on that one. Yeah, I don't think that camera's hovering over the track. I don't think.
Oh, it's expertly handled there. I think Martin's quite right to stick to what he knows best.
Leave it to the professionals who give us some amazing pictures.
I feel sorry for you sometimes, David, because here you are. I do sometimes, not often, but I do sometimes. But here you are, stuck in it. And there's Martin out there. I wanted to go out there where he was, because there's nothing like seeing a Formula One car in the flesh, so to speak.
Correct.
Actually standing there. You are so impressed by it. TV's fantastic images and stuff, but really when you've got one right there in front of you, they're quite frightening, really. Actually.
We were planning to do it at Silverstone this year for FP1 until obviously the pandemic caused a rethink of an awful lot of plans. But we were going to, for FP1, wander around the circuit and do some filming around the circuit, do some commentary from there as well. That was the plan. Maybe we'll do it next year, and maybe there'll be a huge amount of fans at Silverstone as well. I certainly hope so in mid-July. Right, Valtteri Bottas coming in now. He was on the developmental tyres when he set that 1:35.8, his personal best of this session. Verstappen with the quickest time, though, of a 1:29.3.
Air Bahrain Grand Prix. Sky Sports. Feed.
Soft tyres on for Daniel Ricciardo, soft tyres on as well for Sebastian Vettel, who you can see exiting the final corner now, and it's a time of a 1:30.110, so nearly 8/10 off the pace for his Ferrari.
On the soft.
And on the soft compound tyre as well.
Wow.
That's not exactly the headline-grabbing run that Ferrari or Sebastian Vettel would have liked.
No, we're seeing others on the soft now, aren't we? Leclerc's on a lap as well at the moment. He's gone personal best in the first sector and the second sector.
Yeah, only matching what Sebastian Vettel managed in that first sector as well. In 28.6.
Yeah.
Ricciardo just treating his tyres very gently here. It's a very abrasive surface, so expect some quite slow outlaps.
Just a reminder to make sure the brakes are ready. Yep, understood.
And Leclerc off the only P10 slower than what Vettel did, 3/10 off. So Ricciardo getting out of the way of Sainz, who is on a lap at the moment on the soft. So Sainz is about to begin, I think, his hot lap.
Take us through, though, Karun, this lap with Daniel Ricciardo.
Heading down the start-finish straight, he's got DRS open at the moment. So, as Damon mentioned before, the front of the car buried in the ground, big shower of sparks as he turns through the first sequence of corners. Pretty good exit from there in terms of stability. Didn't really see any movement on the rear of the car, so that's good. That's a good sign for the drivability of the engine. So what I mean is the torque is delivering evenly. The drivers are finding the car predictable. So a good, good aspect in that sense. But a 1/10.5 down on Verstappen's time, which we should bear in mind was on the medium. So in terms of lap time, let's see if Ricciardo can pick up a little bit. Or might be the case that the soft tyre isn't quite working on this highly abrasive surface. Through the double left-handers at 9 and 10, no hint of a lock-up there. DRS again open, and we should get the end of the straight as he fires into the left-hander. 5th gear, carrying a good amount of speed through the corner, climbing uphill. We get the second sector time in a moment as he comes across it. He's lost a little bit more, hasn't he? He's lost another 10th to Verstappen, so this should put him comfortably ahead of the Ferraris, which is not a good sign for Ferrari, but let's see. As Ricciardo breaks for the final corner and turns in, the slow speed front end ability of the Renault has been a really strong trait this season, so I'm expecting them to be very strong next weekend. But at the moment, he's gone just a smidge behind Perez. So that's pretty representative, isn't it? The battle between Racing Point and Renault. That's pretty close, albeit I'm fairly sure Perez did that time on the mediums.
He did, yes. He's not run the soft tyres yet in this particular session. Verstappen damaged the underside of his car a little bit. A bit of work going on there. So third fastest for Ricciardo. Let's head to Ted with news of Lando Norris.
Yeah, not again. That seems like exactly the same place that Max had broken something in free practice 1, didn't it? Crofty around that. Oh, replay for you.
Just looking at Carlos Sainz, who's had a bit of an off at turn 7.
On that curb, Crofty.
Yeah.
And that's a curb Tom Stallard was telling him to avoid, turns 6 and 7. And I noticed on the onboard lap, Lewis avoids that curb completely. And yeah, maybe another little reminder to Carlos. It looks like the cars are being spat off that curb. Leclerc got spat off that curb into the runoff area.
Anyway, Ted, Lando.
Yes, so we should see Lando gearing up for a quick lap. He's been in the McLaren garage for the last 6 or 7 minutes. Now he's out on fresh tyres with a new crash helmet design, him as well as Daniel Ricciardo, Crofty. So just mark that down in your mental notes. Well, Ricciardo's the same design, it's just that it's very sparkling. And Lando's is all about his iRacing team or eSports team, Team Quadrant. Anyway, we'll have a look at it later in the session. But Lando getting coached somewhat from his engineer, Will Joseph, telling him to think about, they call it an opportunity. They say on the radio, okay, Lando, opportunity here to be faster, I guess. Try sacrificing a little bit on the entry to turn 10 to get a better exit speed. Was that the one you were talking about, Karun, earlier?
Yeah, it was, Ted. That's the one on the Sky Pad I was looking at. It's such an important corner to give up a little bit on the way in. And as I said before, if you can give up sometimes it's 300-400 hundredths on the way in. You'll gain 1 or 2 tenths on the way back. It's such an awkward entry to that corner. You go over a crest and you're braking and turning. There's multiple lines as well, so yeah, important.
Thanks, Ted.
Okay, quite heavy vibrations at the end of straights.
Okay, understood.
And this will be on his second flying lap.
Wonder if he's got
soft
flat
tyres.
spot, possibly.
Easy 2 flat spot in various places in, not least turn 10, where we saw Valtteri Bottas locking up a fair amount.
So who's on a lap at the moment, Coffee? We're seeing green sector. Latifi seems to be the only one, but we have got other people on out laps, including Verstappen, by the way, who's just gone on. So we should get, this is turn 14, we're seeing on the graphic, the last corner. And this is, it somewhat illustrates what that radio message was about. You could see Vettel, the red trace, going in a bit later on the brakes, but he loses at the mid-corner and all the way coming down. Verstappen sacrifices the entry. He's braking a few meters, probably 7-8 meters earlier, but he's carrying more speed through the apex and then getting a much better exit. So on the whole, he's gaining just under 10.5 in that sector.
What was your preferred choice, Damon? Were you a late breaker or an early breaker?
Well, it's not a question of late. I think it's just a question of the right place to brake, you know, and the right time to do it. Here we are. You can see the difficulty. This is 10, is it?
Yeah.
You get into it, and he's just got a little bit of lock-up going in. That is such a difficult corner to get any front end at, and the only way you're going to get front end is coming off the brakes, which means coming in a little bit slow.
Second lap, not too bad, but I played around a little bit and messed up some corners.
It's, you know, it's easy to go into a corner too quickly. It's very difficult as a racing driver to kind of go in slowly and come out quickly.
Yeah, no, everything's a compromise, isn't it? You know, you're always on the knife edge. You're on that cliff of grip all the time. And sometimes you have to play to the strengths of your car as well.
Just an observation. I mean, I know we've had GP2s, sorry, F2s out there, but you know, the track's very clean. I don't get the feeling that the track temperature is quite low, really. And I wonder whether these tyres are they're just a bit on the hard side. I don't see them keying to the track surface. I don't see black lines going down. There's not much rubber going on the track.
We haven't seen that in the Pirelli era. We see lots of marbles and lots of pickup offline. But unlike in the Bridgestone and Michelin days where you'd see this dark groove, we haven't really seen it in the Pirelli era, I think, since 2011.
We've also not seen today the sun beating down on the track surface. Normally, when we get to this session, we'll have had a really warm day. Surface, the track would have absorbed some of that heat that was coming. That we haven't seen, but what we are seeing, because it's so abrasive, this surface, really slow outlaps. And I want to this Perez lap's going to be very interesting for me, because his best time so far on the medium compound tyre, we can actually make a correlation and see the delta between the medium and the soft rather than the testing tyre to the soft. Verstappen, meanwhile, is on a flyer and he's done a 28.1 for the first sector. Sorry, 28.1 for the first sector.
28.3 roughly, but I think his Verstappen was on mediums as well earlier, wasn't he? His previous best time, I think, was on the medium. So yeah, well, you're right. We'll get two cars here giving us that data from medium to soft. So Verstappen at the moment, I can tell you, is through the second sector, but he's lost a bit of time. Interestingly, compared to his own previous best, he's 0.2 slower. Perez into turn 4. A lot of energy going through the steering wheel, isn't he? He's really working the car hard. The Ferrari gets out of the way. And he, as well, a personal best in Sector 1. Verstappen is about to come across the line and slower on the soft tyre. So he's about a tenth slower on the soft tyre.
Did he attack too hard too soon? Max Verstappen, look at the timing data. That might suggest it. There could have been other problems as well, but from the timing data, that could have been an issue. Back to you, Corinne.
Yeah, and I think that is something they're going to have to evaluate today. That's what they're trying to practice for tomorrow. And you know, we've seen it before,
Yeah,
guys.
the
We've seen the medium be the choice tyre in Portugal, for example.
Damon.
I think Sergio's on a good lap here, don't you think? I mean, I'm quite interested. He looks like he's getting a lot more bounced around in the car. His head's bobbing up and down all over the place. Not much.
Not so fast as Max in the first sector.
Yeah.
Certainly faster than Max in the middle sector. He's about a tenth up as it stands at the moment. His team boss, Otmar Safnauer, is listening in from the Red Bull pit wall. We'll go to him in a couple of seconds, but follow Perez over the line first, and what was the second fastest time for Racing Point remains so, but by only 0.08 of a second to Max Verstappen. Otmar, to you, is this a circuit where if you push too hard
Hamilton
too
down
soon,
in 20th
you will
place.
lose tyre performance as the lap unfolds?
Well, it seems to be that way from, you know, I can see what you're seeing, Crofty, and it looked like we had a decent first, second sector and a little bit slower in the third, so it's about preservation, I think, for the entire lap.
And is Sergio Perez one of those guys that are very good at preserving tyres, especially rear tyres, coming out of a lot of the slow corners that we see here in Bahrain?
Yeah, he's definitely skilled at it. You know, there's still some work to do, so we understand the lap.
Okay, so you've got Lance Stroll out there as well. Tell me how it works with your drivers. Do they share the data? Does one learn off the other?
Yeah, Bottas
yeah, for sure. We've always worked that way, and we always will in the future. And it's you know, it's a team effort at the end of the day. We share between the two sides of the garage.
And just finally, track's temperature 26 degrees. Is that a little bit on the cool side for you and other teams out there?
Well, I think it's going to be representative of the weekend, so we've got to get used to it.
Cool. Thanks ever so much.
Otmar
Safnauer with us all weekend long. Valtteri Bottas will be next to cross the line in his Mercedes, and he goes second
Bottas goes second fastest with 129.3, and Sergio Perez goes third fastest with 129.4.
And yes, produced personal best
still on the first
second
position,
and third, but that wasn't hard considering where Mercedes had been working before that. But didn't get the performance necessarily in the final sector that he would have been expecting.
Yeah, I mean, it is a question of finding out the balance, isn't it? With something that doesn't perform 100% the whole lap, you have to decide where you want it. And it's okay sometimes to be slow in the last sector, because sometimes the biggest gain can be in the middle. And actually, you know, you have to weigh up what it is that's going to give you the biggest overall gain.
Yeah, the middle sector's got the most corners in it on this lap, so you know you do try and maximize it there. I think it could be interesting, depending on how the track evolves for tomorrow. You know, the medium tyre looks like it's just offering them a bit more support. You know, I imagine when they did their medium runs earlier, they had a bit more fuel than they had for the soft ones. So, and Verstappen's best time is still on the medium.
Ted, to you.
Just on the team radio feed, guys, there's been a message from Max Verstappen saying, that's a
and his teammate Alex Albon at the last corner, as you said, Ted. Sorry to cut over you there, but that is a red flag, and you can see the damage that has been done there as Alex Albon hits the barriers and moving in the cockpit, which is always the first thought, and good to see.
Okay, Alex, are you okay?
Red flag, Albon crashed.
Okay, mate.
It's a red flag for FP2.
Oh, but Alex...
Albon's went into the
Alex, fine, physically, which is brilliant, but what will that do to the young man's confidence for the rest of this weekend as well? It's been catching people out, not just in F1, but in F2 earlier as well, this final corner. There's no grip there at all.
Yeah, you know, he got wide. He got, if you look at the left tyres, he just got on the dirty part of that runoff bit and then tried to keep his foot in it. And I wonder, we might even see the dust being flicked up properly. Look out there, look, you could see the dust.
And that's
the worst thing as well, when it flips back on you like that. You know, you can hold a slide, but suddenly it catches and
went a little bit wide
and then chucks you in the wall. And now his confidence, as you say, is such an important time. We spoke to him earlier, and you know, I think this is, you can see what happens. He stays on the gas, it goes sideways. It's great as long as it goes sideways all the time, but maybe he lifted a little bit too late, and then it catches and flips you the other way.
It's similar to the accident he had at the last corner in China, if you remember, in the Toro Rosso.
I do.
And that was FP3, wasn't it, that year?
Sorry, guys.
Oh, Gee,
apology
to
to
the
the team.
Tyres.
Cars get stripped down overnight and rebuilt, but that is a more extensive rebuild than Red Bull would have been planning. And Alex walks away, head down, and back to the pit lane on the track that he scored his first points in Formula One last year with a 9th place finish.
It's a hard game, Formula One. It is such a hard game. I mean, I know lots of people out there fancy being a Formula One racing driver. I tell you, they are under pressure, enormous pressure all the time, and especially when they are not sure whether they're going to be driving for the team they want to drive for next year, and then you're forced into putting a little bit more pressure on yourself, and if it goes wrong, then you have compounded the problem.
Went wrong for Alex Albon there.
What should he have done in that instance then? When you get onto the runoff area, it's concrete and it's dusty. Just try and keep it as straight as you possibly can to try and get some grip, or just lift off the throttle straight away. What as a driver do?
You need to ease onto the throttle, you know, and actually he would have known he's heading there long before he got there. You know, when you go into the corner, you know instinctively in your gut, you're like, I'm a little bit hot at the apex, and in the back of your head you're already thinking, okay, I'm heading there, let's just be a little more gradual on the throttle on you. You know, the accident you see, the exit happens at the entry. It starts at the entry, and really,
do you remember
he needed to be gradual with the throttle, really.
Remember Russell going into Arrabbiata at Mugello? You know, he had wheel off, he had it going sideways, he was flat out.
Albon's gone
before he got to the corner. But I mean, this is something we've all done this. You know, everyone's done this. It's just you don't need it. Well, Alexander Albon does not particularly need this right now. He's still got the rest of the weekend, though, if they can get his car fixed.
Well, that's it. You don't get any points in practice.
I mean, listen, this is a guy who's shown a lot of resilience, hasn't he? And he's going to have to dig deep again tomorrow to rebuild his confidence.
Let's head back to Ted.
Yeah, he's in the medical car, Alex Albon. You can see it's made a real mess of the car. In terms of big impact, maybe not as big as we've seen, maybe not even as big as that one in China that you said, referring to Karun. Fairly sizable though, and I would imagine it would set off the G meter on the car, which is visible to the marshals, which is a mandatory trip to the medical centre. Just to get a check.
That better.
As for the repair to the car, well, the Red Bull mechanics just pulling out the screens, just looking at the replays like we are, judging what might need to be done. Is it a chassis change? Is that going to mean a later night than usual, possibly? I'm sure Alex will be released from the medical centre, but that's where he is at the moment. 3 races he's got, hasn't he, Crofty? 3 races, just to show Red Bull that he's got something.
Yeah, 3 races to prove that. 3 races at Red Bull. That Albon has to prove that he deserves to see in Red Bull again. So 3 races. Doesn't look like he's gonna do it. To be fair, that's just my opinion, but it doesn't look like. It's slow.
26 laps in the Turkish Grand Prix as well. First time he's
Is that good?
This season on the track, where Max hasn't had mechanical problems. So positives to be taken coming in, but do those positives quickly get turned into a negative by an accident like this?
Yeah, I mean that's done a lot of damage as well. You know, it's expensive. Once you start going to gearboxes, that's 200,000-300,000 pounds for just a gearbox. Once you add, you know, bodywork and all the rest of it. I mean, it's a lot of damage for the team.
We're going to leave them a little bit of a margin for perhaps something going wrong with the car, but I think I think you can tell. I think you know, Karen, don't you? You looked at that. It's basically it was driver error, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Is that better now, Solo?
I don't see how that could possibly be caused by anything else. But
Simon Rennie, the race engineer for Alex Albon, talking to Christian Horner. Put a value on that crash for us then.
I mean, I've seen the same pictures as you, but it's going to be high 6 figures, I imagine. If you've done 4 corners, depends on whether they've done the gearbox and the chassis. That's the 2 most expensive parts. So if you've done the gearbox and the chassis, 600-700, something like that, maybe.
And that becomes an expensive crash if that is true. Red flag then. Alex Albon crashing at the final corner. His teammate Max Verstappen, 1:29.3, with the fastest time so far. 18 thousandths of a second clear of Valtteri Bottas.
Had to mute this audio because I'll get done for copyright. But anyway, red flag. See how long this session. Well, the time's still going down. 36 minutes, nearly in a half an hour mark. Stay tuned, guys. Yeah, wait for this advert to, yeah. Thanks, Ola. Thank you. And for these to finish, still red flag. 8 minutes gone. Yeah, still red flag. Yeah, still adverts. Still red flag. It's gonna be a long red flag. Yeah, now it's back on now. Let's play the audio.
Again, did you want to see the replay?
Yeah, audio playing now.
What went wrong, or was it a no replay policy, please, when I get back to the motorhome?
You should want to know. I mean, he knows. He doesn't need to look at it again. I mean, everybody knows what's happened. Yeah, it's just, you know, it's a tragedy really for him, because obviously very, very good driver, but that was kind of a, you know, I hate to say a word, but I mean it was obviously going to go
yeah, still with flags, still taking the car.
That far offline, and on the
air temperature 25 degrees Celsius, so the track temperature 25 degrees
Damon,
Celsius.
you know, Mugello's a track that gets used a lot, and it was clean, and so George Russell knew he could commit to the curb, commit to the green concrete bit, Okay, he had to.
That was grass.
I mean, the gravel eventually was a bit brave. Well, very brave. But what I'm saying is, he, you know, on the concrete part, it was cleaner. Here, we're in the desert.
Yeah.
We know it's a
I don't know. A sports psychologist might also say, was there anything significant that you just passed Gasly as well? You know, I mean, drivers under pressure can think irrationally sometimes, you know, and he definitely is pushing a little bit too hard.
Anyway, we're back to green action.
We are back to green action, and we have 31 minutes and a bit of this session left. And there were some that wouldn't have had their qualifying simulation, including this man, car number 44. Excuse me, Lewis Hamilton, who comes out onto the track now.
Yeah, Hamilton come back on the track.
Don't know what's happened here.
I wonder if race
still red flag and they're coming out.
Totally happy with the way tyre barrier is, the way the advertising boarding is placed over that tyre barrier. This is now really eating into the time that the teams need in what is a crucial session, because it represents track conditions. Oh, it's a dog on the track again.
Yeah, I just saw
a dog on the track again.
Or a cat. I did for that.
Why wonder the red flag still on? There's a dog on the track again, like in Istanbul.
Practice in Turkey, and
dog
we've
on the
got
track.
one in Bahrain.
Is they're heading for the barrier though? That's a well-trained dog.
Absolutely. Lovely. Well, he's not a well-trained dog. So he shouldn't have been in there in the first place.
Yeah,
But yes,
okay, I see your point.
He's trying to make the best of a bad job, is what you mean? Yes.
Yes. Okay, you're right.
He's a very naughty dog. Won't be getting any treats from David.
Yeah,
Hill.
dog.
Well-trained as
Dog can get on the track.
You know what? You absolutely have to offer them treats if you want to get them off the track quickly.
How is the training of the Labrador going?
The Labrador, my wife's in charge of that. She's he's coming along. He likes ripping things though. Apparently Labradors were used for pulling in ropes, fishing ropes. That's why they're called Labradors. I might be wrong. I'm sure someone's going to correct me on that one. But
used for pulling
my God,
in
he can pull a rope. This
I bet he can. You play tug of war with your dog?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he just he
red flag again.
You know, pulling the other end of the
red
rope. He
flag,
comes up and tries to knock me off my feet.
So what we right on board with Lewis Hamilton. Let's just put this in the back of your mind, Damon. 7-time world champion now, of course, who this season has broken the record for most wins.
I don't say it.
Or how should we say? Who let the dogs out?
Who let the dogs out?
Just gone barking, hasn't he? Sebastian Vettel there. So Lewis Hamilton, most wins. Record broken, most podiums, the record broken, most wins for a single team, most consecutive wins, most consecutive points, finishes, most consecutive finishes have all been broken in 2020 as well, and he's now 68 laps short of the record for most laps led, and if he wins the last 3 races, he can equal the record for the most amount of wins in a season as well. And his winning margin in Turkey to seal that championship, 31.6 seconds. The third time he's won by 24 seconds or more in 2020.
You want me?
If I had known that dogs were allowed, I would have brought mine.
Bruno.
But he's in quarantine, so wouldn't work out.
Roscoe's here.
Exactly. Chat with Lewis Hamilton, Seb. You know, you had a great chat with him after the race in Turkey. Have a chat about about dogs. I know you get him to the track as well. I just put those stats out there, Damon, because you are with us for this commentary session. You too are world champion. And I just wonder, when you hear stats like that, what you think?
I think I think my championship is not even on the same planet
as
Lewis's records of achievements. I mean, it's just phenomenal.
Yeah, no red
he
flag
has. I mentioned it before earlier on. I think he's sort of crept up on this. You know, he's managed to kind of chip away. I suppose they have come in quite a rush, haven't they? You know, all the consecutive championships. But he's managed to make us not put pressure on him. You know, he's always talked about those targets as being not relevant. That's how he does it. Look.
So he gets out.
A secret way in and out.
Well, you could have been a 2-time champion.
Seb singing, you let the dogs out.
Been a 7-time
I could have been a 7 times world champion. Yeah. I probably could have done. I mean, if I'd started early enough, then I'd had one more. I mean, what does it mean? I could have.
Could have, would have, should have. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
We've got a piece in tomorrow's Quali show looking at their 7 titles and the road to 7 for both of them. But it was interesting when researching that piece. I looked at it, and you could say that interesting for both of them, for 4 out of their 7, they had absolutely the most dominant
Yeah,
car.
no
No
red
question about
flag.
it. But in the other 3, they had someone else who was you know, in a car of an equal to them.
But I can remember
19.
just starting
So-
when we in the early days of Sky covering it, and when Lewis was going from McLaren.
So
and he's taking the decision to go
7:03, the
to Mercedes,
session
everyone's
will
going,
restart.
Was that the right move? And it was an astute move, and it's the kind of thing that makes these guys also, and they put them in the right, they put themselves in the right place to win. You know, they're smart in other ways, in all kinds of other ways. They don't just drive quickly, which is clearly important. But you know, Lewis went with his guts, he went with his instincts, and he invested in the Mercedes opportunity when it wasn't looking quite as rosy as it is now.
Yeah,
could
now they're
see
back on, green
what
flag.
Mercedes were trying to do, and he bought into it completely. And whilst he's admitted, you know, this week that there was a chance he could have gone to Ferrari, you know, he did have talks with John Elkann. That very unlikely now for the future, and he'll sign a contract, you would imagine, with Mercedes and finish off his career there. And however many titles that may or may not be by the time he leaves Formula One. It's I just thought it was worth reading out a few stats there.
Yeah,
just to
green
show
flag again.
how dominant he's
Perez
been
at
this year,
129.4 in
this year
third
has
place.
been
Second
in
place,
terms of records
the
broken, not
Moretti
just
Bottas for
winning that championship.
129.3.
Go on.
And Max
Sorry.
To me,
Verstappen
Crofty,
in
though,
first place
the
in the
biggest thing
129.3.
is still the way Lewis arrived in F1.
Yeah.
In 2007, I mean, you know, we talked about all the other rookies coming in, etc., etc. He was up against the reigning double world champion.
So we've got a group of 5 cars ahead.
I mean, I got cars all around me, man.
Managed to make a gap now, though, so he's got a decent, you can see on the driver track on the bottom right of your screen, so he's got a gap. Yeah, no, when he arrived, you know, he was teammates with the reigning
He's
double
got cars
world
all around
champion.
him, hasn't he?
He got a podium in the
Cars
first
all around
9
him.
races of his F1 career, and heading into the final 2 races, he was ahead of Alonso by 12 points and Raikkonen by 17 points. I mean, this was a rookie. To me, that whenever people say, you know, his recent and all the championship because he had the best car, etc., etc., you have to look at that season and just go, what an impact he made.
7-time champion or not, he's struggling to find a gap out there at the moment to put in his qualifying simulation lap. He's going to go
Yeah,
for it
I'm
now.
struggling
We'll
to
head
put
to
his,
Martin Brundle out on
qualifying
track in a couple of moments.
simulation.
But Karun, take us through this
Lap
Lewis
in,
Hamilton
so
qualifying simulation.
The grip levels
DRS
is
wide
struggling to
open.
find
He's
right.
managed to get a little bit of a gap to Pierre Gasly in front, but his tyres and brakes would not have been in the optimum operating window for him for the first sector of the lap. So we'll have to see how it reflects in terms of lap time. Verstappen, let's keep in mind, did his best lap on the medium tyre. Hamilton now through turn 4. Let's say the first intermediate come up, and he is just a fraction, 0.005 of a second down. So the second sector now, this is where we'll see if those red sidewall, soft compound tires that he's got, can he hang on? Can the grip
Hamilton on the
keep
qualifying
giving him the
simulation lap
opportunity to extract
see how he
what
does.
he needs
See
through
if he can
9 and
beat
10. We
Verstappen.
didn't get to see if he had a lock-up there, but pretty clean on the exit, so I'm going to assume there was no lock-up. Heading down the back straight, he's going to get a distant toe from Gasly. These cars pick up a slipstream from about 5 seconds behind, and he will now be comfortably flat through the right-hander, climbing uphill. We'll get second sector time. Grosjean gets nicely out of the way, and he's slightly up. So the Mercedes seems to be looking after these tyres, but we're not seeing a huge leap in performance on the soft tyre once again. Gasly's going to distract him. It's going to hurt the aero under braking now. He's got too close to him in that braking zone. So that he would have picked up a slipstream, but it would have hurt him in terms of the braking performance, and it has in fact compromised him there in the last sector. So P6.
Yeah, P6 for Lewis Hamilton. Nearly 0.3 of a second off the pace. So leaving questions that we can still ask all the way through to qualifying tomorrow, I would imagine on that. He might try and go for another lap here, but there are others out there, Damon, trying to do something completely different than qualifying simulations. So wherever you are, on
other
the track,
people
you're
are
unlikely
getting
to find a
qualifying
gap in a
information, but they
Mercedes
can't
to
get it
go
because the grip
flat out the
levels.
way you would want.
Because the grip
Yeah, I mean,
levels, so they
Bottas has
can't
got,
really get
you know,
the
he's
qualifying
what,
simulation.
36 thousandths, Crofty. Sorry, 18 thousandths of Verstappen's time, and on the soft tyre. So, you know, I've got a good clue that the medium and soft is not dissimilar at the moment.
Let's see how the cars are performing out on track to the naked eye. Martin Brundle at turn 8. Martin.
I am a place I've never been before, actually, right down on the apex of turn 8. They appear on the top of the horizon there for 6 and 7, and they look unbelievably fast.
I know.
McLaren coming down there
look good.
of Carlos Sainz. Rotates it nicely through the apex and heads over that blind crest, which is where you see them struggling in the braking zone for 9 and 10 a little bit later on in the lap. So I've heard you talk a lot about that, but the direction change on the top of the hill and then the retardation at the bottom of the hill. The Ferraris doesn't want to turn in here. The Racing Point there looked a bit better. The Ferrari, you can see them just waiting. They turn the steering wheel and the front just will not come in to the apex of this corner.
Yeah, some
apex of Racing Point coming down there, and Hamilton.
Yeah, Hamilton's coming down there now.
Faster than 6.
Here's some Alfa Romeo, ripping it in Alfa Romeo. Antonio Giovinazzi probably doing a qualifying sim. Yeah, Hamilton doing a qualifying lap.
As Lando Norris comes through, incredible amount of action and energy going on down here. I'll hand back to you as we see Max Verstappen taking the apex of 8 and heading towards that blind crest of 9 again. Over and out.
Thanks, Martin. Great place to watch some cars this evening here in Bahrain at 10 past 9 nearly, 10 past 7 nearly on the clock, and we've got 20 minutes to go in this session. So after the 2 red flags, Jüri Vips here again as the reserve driver at Red Bull and AlphaTauri for this week.
Yeah, last sector Gasly messed them up.
Flags, so some severe compromised running time for all the teams.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Sainz actually, Crofty, had done the best first sector of anybody on the lap that it went red. So certainly McLaren have got a bit of performance that they haven't shown. Norris obviously P7, but you're absolutely right. You know, we can't read into the session because I think at least half the grid was compromised.
Abby says Damon Hill talking about his dog has made my afternoon. Rob B, and don't ever go at me for this, but this has really tickled me, this. Second red flag for the dog. Rob B blames Marcus Ericsson. I think that's really funny. Sorry.
Yeah. No.
Whose fault?
You and Rob B should be best friends.
Yeah, the venue will host 3 F1 races in 4 months, returning next weekend for the Sakir GP, and again on March 28th for the 2021 Grand Prix. So yeah, they'll be hosting 3
She'll get
races.
very upset if I've called it my dog. It's her dog.
Georgie, if you're listening, we've clarified this.
Right. I'm sure the dog really belongs to, well, is part of the family, and you both claim.
Seb, just locking up again. But then you can just about get away with a tiny one, can't you? It's still rotating, so it's not getting a flat spot. Just keep going round. That's it. A little bit more. That's just a light scrub, isn't it, Karen?
Yeah, it's confusing what Ferrari are doing though. They put the they put the testing tyres on.
Yeah, Vettel looking a few corners, so
you know, as close to being representative in terms of
lots of people are struggling in corners.
Seb's car.
No, it's on both. It's on both.
Is it on both?
Yeah.
Let's take it back.
This gets even better. Matt says, could we have a petition to rename this weekend the Bahrain Grand Prix?
Yeah,
honestly,
keep them coming.
Keep them coming.
Don't encourage them.
We'll give a treat to the best one.
Yeah. Well, dog treats for the best one.
Or something.
A bone. Ted, to you.
A biscuit. Don't they have dog biscuits?
Yes, they do.
No biscuit for that naughty dog. No biscuit. Bad Bob. Bad boy. Right, I can explain partly the Sebastian Vettel quandary on the tyres, guys, as to why he's on that tyre. His previous set, one of the more representative for the race, actually was unbalanced and was giving a very, very severe vibration. Seb said he hadn't flat spotted it. It wasn't anything he felt he'd done, but the vibration was getting worse.
They're all doing test laps, really.
Just coming in and changing his tyres again. So that's why they decided to put the prototype tyre on. to get rid of that tyre that was unbalanced and had lost its little lead weight from it. Those little lead weights, Damon, they can make a big difference.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, once you get a wheel going around that fast, it only has to be a few grams out and you get it jumping all over the place. So it's the same as the old washing machine, the tumble dryer, isn't it? The tumble dryer, when you got that.
Oh, the dampers,
Yeah,
yes.
exactly,
You have to remember. You know, when I first moved to England, I
See
didn't know
Leclerc's
this.
replay now.
The first ever house, I was an 18-year-old,
Leclerc locks with that deep braking
and
zone.
it started bouncing up and down because I forgot
That's a
to
tough.
take the
That's a
things
tough
out.
corner
I
anyway.
didn't know I had to take things out.
Sometimes I lock up there when I do
that's a
race on
good
F1.
analogy, Mr. Hill.
Well, if you can get your smalls and your larges all balanced out inside the drum, it will go around smoothly. You won't leap up and down. So that's where we are with wheel weights being out of. Or you can get flat spots as well that can give you vibration too.
Before we came into the commentary box, you said, "Can I talk about sandpaper?"
Yes.
And now you've gone on to washing machines, which is quite a leap, to be fair.
Well, if anyone follows his Twitter feed, you'll know the random thoughts that pop up are just excellent. That's part of the whole Damon Hill experience.
So give us the full Damon Hill experience.
Well, I was trying to think of how you can explain this track surface. So different track surfaces. We had in.
Can I have a front wing update?
Yeah, that's all good. Tires just died.
So what can they do to prevent that? It's probably a job for a debrief. Go on, track surface.
Yeah, no, it's about how the tyre is affected by the track surface, and so tiny bits of scrub. When you've got very abrasive tracks, if you compare it to sandpaper, when we were in Turkey, you had a kind of like wet and dry, didn't you? You had like 100 grade, 1000 grade sandpaper, whereas this is more like 30 grade. You know, it's very abrasive, and it actually just cuts the tyre off. So you get very high peaks in surface temperature, but not much load going through. Very quickly, the load drops off, and the actual tyre itself doesn't work that hard. The carcass of the tyre doesn't work.
Good analogy.
Right, well, there you go. That's what we paid for.
Damon Hill, ladies and gentlemen, with us. I like that one. That's
Yeah, Verstappen still on pole. I mean, not on pole, but still first place. Second place, Valtteri Bottas up to second. Sergio Perez. Third place, Sergio Perez. He's doing good on this track. Probably likes it
because of a dog on the track.
Yeah, Racing Point personally, he's doing good.
No. Let's stop.
Okay, it's adverts now. Still adverts. Hamilton goes provisional pole. I mean, not provisional. Well, he's at first place now, 128.9. Went to adverts over. Yeah, it's back on now. Yeah, Lando Norris on a flyer. They're all doing their quali sims now. Lando Norris on a flyer.
2020, Lando Norris leads 18-17 over Sainz in qualifying as teammates over the last season and a bit. And in terms of the points, Carlos Sainz now ahead of his teammate by 1 point in the Drivers' Championship. McLaren and Haas were the two very close teammates.
Yeah, Lando Norris
battles,
into the pit lane now.
This, Bahrain Grand Prix. And we can head to
into the pit lane.
So what are we seeing here? What's the picture? What's the
10 minutes to go. 9 minutes to go actually in this practice session.
You never know in this season, do you, Crofty? But well, what we're looking at is perhaps
doing the test pit stop.
Because it's
McLaren doing the test for the pit stops. Back out again.
On the tyres to keep the tyres
onto the soft tyres because they're doing quali sims. The qualifying is tomorrow, so
the tyre is finished. Everyone else complaining about not only the traction but also the general stability on the tyres. So are we going to see people trying to qualify? Certainly the top teams trying to qualify in Q2 to start the race on the yellow stripe medium, very probably. And then are we going to see 2 stops? Quite possibly as well, which hopefully...
Yeah, Hamilton qualifying pace. Hamilton is the fastest. Second qualifying pace is Max Verstappen. And third for the qualifying pace is Sergio Perez. Yeah, Sergio Perez is third in the qualifying pace. He's interested in the top 3. Fourth in qualifying pace is Daniel Ricciardo. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting qualifying.
The battle between Perez and Ricciardo to be just a 0.03 of a second.
It's not fully representative of the McLaren pace either, because as I said before, they were compromised by the red flag. So yeah, I mean it's super close, isn't it? The midfield. We've seen it all season long, and expect this weekend to be the same.
The fastest.
So these are what we used to call ideal times, right? Are they?
Yeah. Well, this is basically take the headline
in qualifying base. So
and then look at car data analysis as well, and
Hamilton is looking fast here, and Racing Point as well. Racing Point's been looking fast in practice 1 and 2
because of the red flag, and trying to produce something that is just a bit more
Amazon
than just the headline times that we see. That is the
idea. Hamilton. Oh yeah, Hamilton's a savage, man.
For this season.
Preview on that one.
Impressed or not, I don't know.
But helpful. It's all helpful.
Yeah, I think Hamilton's going to get pole tomorrow. That's my predictions. Hamilton's going to get pole. He's on top with the qualifying pace, along with Max Verstappen and Perez. Even though Perez is 4th, he's 3rd in qualifying pace.
Setups on the car the whole time going into a corner. I find that fascinating. I wouldn't be able to cope with all that.
You wouldn't?
Too much going on.
I have so much oversteer, I'm barely turning in the corners anymore.
Yeah, Fiat's getting loads of oversteering when turning into the corners. He's getting loads of oversteer.
The electronic diff settings on there to just give him a bit more stability on the entry to the corner. So
yeah, but he was changing it as he went into the corner under the brakes.
Yeah.
7 minutes and 20 seconds to go then.
7 minutes and 20 seconds to go. Now it's 28 seconds.
Hamilton will come
delay
out
with the audio.
Laps, even though he's still in the garage at the moment. But he's not
Hamilton's
really
in the garage.
High fuel running on this soft tyre, so that will be one that will have to get.
Yeah, Hamilton might come out now for one last flyer. And the soft tyres, yeah, it's coming out now. come out for a flyer now. Probably going to get an improved lap time, probably in the 127s, you never know. 128 too. He's got fresh soft tyres, all warmed up and ready to go.
So Hamilton to come out then to the race.
Yeah, I'll keep going.
Fuel, but he's going to get what?
I'll keep going solo.
5 laps in for this. Is that enough? Is that enough time, even for a 7-time world champion, to go out there and get the data that he would want, or is he now relying on his teammates' data?
Well, it's 5 laps in this car on this weekend, and then all the other laps that he's done for his entire racing career. You know, to get information, you know, and all the other laps that Mercedes have done, they don't just go on one data point. You know, they'll bring in all the other things they've learned as well. So they're pretty good at working out from a very small amount of data what it means.
So there's the Drivers' Championship then, and whilst the title is decided, 110 points between Hamilton and Bottas. Bottas under a bit of pressure, do you think, from Verstappen?
I don't know why that message was retracted.
Behind.
I don't know why that message was retracted. I don't know why.
Ricardo could all snatch 4th place. They're the contenders for that one.
Definitely Valtteri, you know, a bit of pride still to salvage perhaps in the last 3 races, and you know, maybe a championship position. So yes, always want to have a good race. You know, he could have a good race against Lewis, but from past form, we'd have to say probably Lewis has got the edge. And I think Lewis will want to bag all 3 victories.
Well, there was a time that he'd win a championship, Damon, and then he then victories, he either wasn't overly fussed about it too much, or that they just didn't come his way. And there was a time where he'd win the title, and that would be it for the season. But if he does win the final 3 races, that's 13 wins in a season. That equals Sebastian Vettel and Michael Schumacher's record for the most amount of wins. So in a record-breaking season, you can
Leclerc on another
funny you should mention
qualifying sim. Every driver's doing their quali sims now. 3 minutes to go through the battery session.
A bit of motivation for him.
So yeah,
already gone. That's crazy.
See if he says the car's freezing.
In 2013, Michael Schumacher in 2004 with that 13 race season. And he would do it, of course, in a season where there were less races than we had in 04 and 2013.
Right.
Pretty certain about that one.
Yeah. So a greater percentage of the championship, if you like.
Would
of course, I think still the MP44, the McLaren winning 15 out of 16 is still as a percentage.
So far, people doing good on their quali sims. Hamilton first, second Max Verstappen. Valtteri Bottas in 3rd place.
Of course, Mercedes can't have this year is the one for taking poles in every single race during the course of the season. They'll probably end up like Williams did that year with just so McLaren did with just the one race where they didn't take that pole position, and Lance Stroll ending that last time out.
How many?
Yeah, Max Verstappen in 2nd. Red Bull's been looking strong here as well. Racing Point. Renault's been doing good, but Racing Point's been doing better.
Maybe we should look that up.
I think their car is probably like Perez likes this track or something, or their car suits it.
That's probably why I haven't looked it up, to be fair.
Bottas is doing the lap.
He's qualified in the top 2, but he hasn't started on the front row. Of course, he had that penalty.
Yeah, but Bottas is qualified in the top 2, but he hadn't started on the front row before.
And of course, in Turkey, he was 6th on the grid as well. Sorry.
Yes, absolutely.
That's what the commentator says.
He was very much matching Verstappen initial laps.
He says make sure that Verstappen does initial laps. Don't know what that means, but that's what he says.
Under control as to who's going to have a good rest of the weekend. Whether Checo Perez has already got the tyres under control, we will see. But yes, it was 18 races in 2004, Crofty. I remember.
Yeah, 18 races in 2004. This counts the season, I think.
Hamilton this year out of 17,
counts the season.
That would of course be a better percentage, wouldn't it? And there were 18 or. I think there were 18 at least in Seb's year that he was in with the Red Bull as well back in 2013, was it?
Yeah, we're talking about 2013.
Good. All right, just a quick one on. Oh, is there a replay you need to see?
No.
Okay. Just a quick
yeah,
one
Vettel on a run. Current pace is a 1:37.2.
Timings,
So for Sebastian Vettel.
Asked the team whether there's anything wrong with the car particularly, or things he was struggling on.
Vettel
Earlier
on a
in the
lap.
session,
Let's
he
see
was
what he
actually
does, to
saying
see
that,
what he can
the
do.
car was feeling pretty good on traction, particularly.
1 minute to
Something
go.
That was a little bit better. So I would imagine his times, as you mentioned, he's had a few quick times taken away for track limits. Has he not?
Speeders,
Yes.
speed.
So I think they're not representative. His
Carlos
position
Sainz
in
on
the
another run.
times, and hopefully there's
56 seconds to go.
Ted, you'll be going off to interview the drivers after this session. After the dog came on the track, Tanj wants to know: will you be talking to Kimi Räikkönen?
Yeah, good.
After this session, and quite a few people saying, "Are you going to go and put a microphone in front of Spaniel Ricardo?" Which is my favourite so far.
Did we hear
Hamilton on another run.
the name of Seb's dog there? Was it
So what he can do, he's going to stay in first place, I think. Max Verstappen 1:29.3. Lewis Hamilton up in the 1:28.
Just on the Albon thing, just while before
Hamilton
I go,
got it, man. Full practice too. He's locked it
This
out.
sort of difficult second series that
Look, never know what could happen.
that Alex
Never
Albon
know.
is having.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't really have the luxury, did you? Because you went from Brabham straight into Williams. But do you identify that as something that drivers can have, a difficult second year? We've seen it with others.
I think it was more. I had a difficult first, second,
Yeah.
third, fourth, fifth.
Current
I
pace
can't
on
remember
track.
any season not
Second
being
is
difficult,
Fiat.
frankly.
Second
But
fastest pace. Hamilton first fastest pace.
Listen, you know,
Third
it
is
pressure, and
Ocon with the
I
fifth
had
fastest
times
pace.
when I cracked, definitely, and any.
Yeah, that's the end of
Albon will
practice.
be rock bottom right now, but he's got to
End the
rebuild
practice
himself,
now.
Put this all behind him.
So,
think about what's
I might
left
play
of the
through
weekend if they can
interviews,
get
then
that car
I'll turn off the
rebuilt.
stream, and I might
He's still got
stream
a race ahead
F1
of him.
2020
But,
later. Don't know.
It's there. It's
Depends
on
how I
the
feel
records.
like.
Everyone saw it. Everyone knows what happened. It's a tough one to have that staring you in the face when you look in the mirror tomorrow morning.
Afraid so. Afraid so. Damon, you know that bit about was
Yeah,
there
check
a
a
driver
flag.
who ever started every race on the front row?
Yeah.
Was that you?
I think it might have been.
You think it might have been? Was it you in 1996?
I think it might be, yes.
Thanks, Sean.
but I got you, didn't I? That's a stat you didn't know.
It's a stat that I actually didn't know off the top of my head.
And I'm standing right next to you.
That's good. I like that. Sean the stat man has just messaged me to say Damon started every race on the front row in '96. He's trolling you. Sean the stat man's a very nice man indeed, unlike you.
So
pesky.
which driver's going to get out at the end of the session and say my car's a dog?
Well, I think there'll be a few that say the tyres have gone off.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Hamilton
So the cars
first,
have gone.
second Max Verstappen, third Valtteri Bottas, fourth Sergio Perez, fifth Daniel Ricciardo, sixth Pierre Gasly, seventh Lando Norris, eighth Lance Stroll, ninth Daniel Fiat, 10th Alex Albon, 11th Esteban Ocon, 12th Sebastian Vettel, 13th Carlos Sainz, 14th Charles Leclerc, 15th Antonio Giovinazzi, 16th Kevin Magnussen, 17th Kimi Räikkönen, 18th Nicholas Latifi, 19th Romain Grosjean, and 20th George Russell.
I mean, you'd see
Yeah,
a bigger-
they're the
you'd see it
practice
bigger
two
one.
standings.
Yeah.
Now they're doing the
It's
the
all a
practice
bit
start,
muddled
so yeah.
by having the testing times
I'll be back in a
on
sec.
that one as well. We'll try and actually crunch some numbers overnight and get the deltas for you. But in a critical session, they could have done without having two red flags. Max Verstappen 3.5 tenths down. Correct that to about 3 tenths down. He might feel actually, if I could get at Valtteri Bottas to start on the front row, I've got an excellent chance.
Excellent. I'm just thinking the same. I mean, they are sniffing. They want to know that they can perhaps bring the fight to Mercedes next year, and they want to start now.
Yeah. Good to see, says Mark Porter, the racing pointers going well again. I've had so many dog
pointers,
jokes.
that's good.
So many
Well,
dog jokes
that gets
sent
a biscuit,
to me.
that one.
That gets the biscuit from David. Thanks, David. It has been fun as ever. Lewis Hamilton then, fastest man this morning, fastest man this afternoon or evening as well. A 1:28.9 on the soft compound tyre. Max Verstappen setting his best time on the medium tyre there. with a 1:29.3, just ahead of Valtteri Bottas, Sergio Perez and Spaniel.
Yeah, guys, back.
Yeah, Pierre Gasly,
I did my track guide on the Bahrain GP, the normal rim, so go check that out on my YouTube, and also I'm doing a track guide on the Bahrain outer loop, so look out for that on my YouTube channel.
Lewis Hamilton under the night sky here in Bahrain. I think there's still a lot of questions to be answered before qualifying tomorrow.
That is the end of the dog jokes, I promise.
Yeah, end of the Grand
There we
Prix.
go.
I mean, end of the practice session.
Practice street back on air from 10:45, qualifying from 1 o'clock. And on Sunday, we get underway 12:30, race start 2:10. We are 3 hours ahead of you here in Bahrain. Now, coming up later, the Super League Grand Final.
The biggest night of the Super League year.
Yeah, let me mute this audio because I'll get done for copyright. But yeah, that's the end of practice. I'll be doing more content on my YouTube. I do some content from my Twitch, but mostly YouTube because that's where I do my recordings. Yeah, so YouTube, look out for that. Twitch is for my gaming now, and I'll start streaming on YouTube. So I may restream, I may multi-stream like down the line, like tomorrow or something. But so YouTube subs you can talk as well. But yeah, mostly gamings. I'll do my gaming. It's mostly Twitch, Toto_Hammer, and on YouTube, and I mostly do my content and track guides and cruise arounds, all of that. Light races.
Is going to be
I do it on
whoever
YouTube,
gets
so
there. The biggest
yeah,
thing
feel
for
free
those
to go
teams,
to my
midfield
YouTube.
teams, is to get the guy who's ever the slowest to be as close to making an impact.
Yeah,
1:28.9 was the fastest lap recorded by Lewis Hamilton. Topped both of those sessions. Let's have a look at the one he's just recorded here.
Hamilton just topped both of the practice 1 and 2. Smashing over here, Lewis Hamilton.
But eventually he got it all together, as you said, to do a 1:28.9 on a set of soft tyres. So let's take a look at the lap heading down towards turn 1. Lewis uses an interesting line here. He squares off the corner, and he's actually more in the middle of the road than some other people. We've seen other cars further, if you take the center line of the car, sort of there. So he's about half a car's width across to the right, and that frees up the exit and allows him to accelerate up this hill towards turn 4.
Yeah,
perhaps cleaner than other people. Through turn 4 itself, he uses a lot of speed on the way.
Yeah, Hamilton turn 4 uses a lot of speed through the corner.
Out wide, over the brow. Now this middle part uses a lot of curve on the right-hand side. We didn't see him doing that in the earlier session, and clearly as the tracks got grippier, he's decided to start committing to the curves, and clearly the dust in that part has cleaned off as well. Changes the brake balance, as we've seen all day long.
Yeah, changes brake balance during the corners.
This was a tiny
making the best braking
corner
corners possible and the best brake.
And once again, shifting the brake balance, bit of a change on the engine braking settings as well to give him some rear stability as he chucks the car and uses 4th gear for that left-hander, which I think when we get to the quicker laps in qualifying, will be up to 5th gear and a bit more speed. Into the final part of the lap, he's managed to keep the grip in the tyres well
kept
to
the
the middle
grip in the
sector,
tyres
but they're
all
starting
along.
to drop off. And as we get towards the final corner itself, you'll see him now committing in, and when he starts to pick up the throttle, look at his hands sawing a little bit at the wheel, and that's just the rear tyres starting to suffer. But on the whole, a very good lap for Lewis Hamilton. Alex Albon, as we know, is the big story of the day.
Yeah, Alex Albon, not a good day for him this
and
weekend.
Unfortunately for him,
not a
that
good day.
just meant there wasn't enough grip out there. When we go on board, I'm just going to pause it and try and walk you through. So he's carried the speed, and watch his hands now. He's understeering out wide. He starts to pick the power up. He's opening the wheel. But as he's accelerated, he will know that he's understeering out wide. At this point, He's on the right-hand wheels are still on that curb, and he can still get out of jail. At this point, you know, if you feel the car's trajectory heading out there, which is where you ended up, you're safer to back out of it because, you know, there's no grip, especially on a Friday. It's day one of running here in Bahrain, and it's sandy. And if you see, this is where he's ended up going. And then we get the snap of oversteer, watch his hands, and by this stage it's too late. So, yeah, really, he was a fraction too late to back out of it. He wasn't the only one to run out wide onto that runoff area. We saw Leclerc doing it as well. He got on the sandy bit, but he came off the gas just for a fraction before recommitting, and that just settled the car and meant he didn't end up hitting that barrier. So, yeah, unlucky for Alex, but hopefully he can bounce back from that tomorrow.
Yeah, we hope so for his sake. First of all, before we get into the psychology of it all, a very costly error in terms of pure cash. Could you put a figure on that, do you think? I mean, it looked like potentially the monocoque.
Yeah, I mean, it can't be far off a mil when you look at when Haas had that big shunt and they came out of it in Malaysia when it destroyed the car. But you could see his body language walking away. He's dented. The world is on top of him at the moment. And, you know, I want to actually listen because I think he actually keeps it nailed and changes up the gears when he's off the track. So he's still flicking up the gears. He wants to finish the lap. He knows Max has already got a great lap on the board. But there's some desperation in there because it's his drive. You know, fundamentally, he needs to have good days and full of confidence. You know, that's one step forward in Turkey, as you want to call it, and
so
you're
what I'm
already 2 steps back based on that because you go into tomorrow.
And I'm going to let you play all the interviews, and I'll play the outro, and that'll be the...
You know, you saw Christian Horner go into the garage to check with the engineers off the intercom to have a chat, and it's very hard. It's very hard under the pressures that he's under, but this is what, you know, that Red Bull need. They need somebody that's, you know, pushing Max a bit more and a bit more comfortable. But I feel for him today.
Yeah, well, we all do. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? As Damon was saying in commentary there, you know, people have done that. Everyone does it. It's just right now. You thought, I mean, you're hearing rumours. We're hearing rumours out of Red Bull that the likelihood is that he's going to be in that seat next year. So
it was coming into this race.
Yeah, no, but I mean, you think back to what happened with Pierre Gasly in pre-season testing back in 2019. Had a couple of big shunts, didn't they, which were very costly.
Yeah, I'm going to play the interviews now.
It's when you start making errors like that cost the team a huge chunk of change. That perhaps opinions change a little. You say?
Certainly, when you've got Sergio sitting there. He's delivering every weekend at the moment, isn't he? He's right up there. He's very comfortable. He's mature. He's 30 years old. He delivers the result you want. He might not be the guy that grabs pole position off Max, but Sergio will certainly be a finisher. He's a good racer, good wheel to wheel, and that's backup plan. But he's sitting there, and I guess Red Bull know he's not going to get another opportunity anywhere else, so they can afford to put this one out. But like we were saying before, do you have full confidence with Alex that he's going to deliver every weekend? And honestly, it's a very tough ask, given where he is.
It's a tough ask, but you know what? If you can bounce back from this weekend and turn what is a low point into a decent performance, then perhaps he'll be able to take some positives. Let's hear how he feels right now, though. This is what you've got to say.
First up, like a pretty big hit for you there. How are you feeling?
It was okay, yeah. Obviously, had a few of them, so used to it, but it was okay. It was just one of them things that should have got pulled out of it, really. I was a bit surprised by the lack of grip, let's say, but yeah, I mean, it was just one of them things. It's quite a difficult, awkward angle, them crashes, so yeah, not fun, but all good.
Was that just it then? You said just a failure to back out and then the snap?
Yeah, I mean, I did back out, but not enough, basically, because when you have one tyre on the Astra and one tyre on the grip, that's when the tank slappers happen. So yeah, one of those things.
Up until that point, talk us through the day.
It was okay, actually. I would say in FP1 car was feeling pretty good straight away. Then in FP2, if anything, tried a couple of things. Didn't quite work out, but actually more on the driving, actually. Just getting up to speed. The track grips up a lot, and weirdly on the prototype tyres, it's not. They're not very fun to drive on. So we'll see how it goes next year, but yeah, just getting up to speed with it.
Okay, both of you suffered a little bit with the fronts in terms of keeping them turned on. How hard is that going to be going into qualifying?
Yeah, it's strange. Almost all year it's rears going off through a lap. This weekend seems to be the fronts, so we'll have a think about it. it's all right on the first time lap, and then after that it goes. So we'll just need to see how we can get it to last a bit longer.
And you touched briefly on the tyres for next season. Your initial thoughts, as you said, not that happy?
No, they're slow, and they're not really very grippy. So I reckon they were about over a second off what we have now, which doesn't bode too well. We'll see how it goes.
Thank you.
Christian Horner has kindly joined us. Christian, we were just saying, feel for him there. Just assess the damage, if you could, first on the car.
Yeah, it's frustrating. Thankfully, Alex is okay. That's the main thing. Obviously, there's a lot of superficial damage. The monocoque looks okay. The engine looks okay. It's not a race gearbox, but it's going to certainly keep the guys busy tonight.
How costly is a mistake like that, Christian?
It's difficult to quantify in money, but it's a significant amount, because obviously the car's been then pulled into the barrier, and it's done, I think, at least 3 corners, if not all 4 corners, and rear wing, front wing, nose box. So it's a significant amount.
We saw, as we have another look at it, we saw Alex's body language as he got out. Clearly, he's really disappointed. Right now, he just needs a run of luck, doesn't he? Let's face it. That there, though, and for his confidence, what do you say to him to get his head back in the weekend?
Well, he's just got to try and put it out of his mind, because actually in Istanbul and so far this weekend, in terms of characteristics, in terms of his feeling from the car, it's been getting better and better, and his feedback's been very consistent with Adam Max's. So it's a great shame that he's had that accident. He didn't get the first lap on the medium tyre, so it just has, he's got onto the back foot, and that accident obviously doesn't help. But hopefully, tomorrow's another day.
Have you managed to have a chat with him in the office away from it since the crash?
I just let him cool down first. The main thing is you get him released from the medical centre, which he's been done. They're all happy with him, and I'll go and have a chat with him in 10 minutes or so.
Christian, whilst we've got you here, can I just ask you something that's kind of breaking in the last couple of hours, is that potentially Ferrari might back an engine freeze. Have you been having a little word in their ear? What's your take on that, and what do you know about it?
I think that's positive news. I think it's positive news for Formula One. I think all the manufacturers, all the CEO of the automotive industry, they all recognise the investment of cost in these engines, particularly with a new technology coming for 2026, maybe 2025. It doesn't make sense to keep, investing hundreds of millions of dollars in these engines. So to freeze, the only thing you've got to do with a freeze, though, is there's got to be some kind of mechanism that if somebody has undershot, either over the winter or once during the season, they have the ability to correct that. Otherwise, you're locking in a disadvantage. But from this point of view, from our point of view, it's a very positive thing.
So as far as we understand, then, that's only Renault maybe that you've got to get to agree to that, and potentially that could play into your hands.
Well, one would
in a
have thought
way.
that for Renault it would be completely logical as well, but let's see. But it's encouraging to hear that Ferrari are back in that position.
Okay, final one. Can you challenge a challenge on the Mercedes this weekend?
They look pretty mighty, but I think the long run pace, with Max this evening looked pretty good. So the circuit's still quite green, it's still quite fresh, so it's got to rubber in a bit, but there's Formula 2 here as well this weekend that's only going to help. So hopefully in race pace we should be pretty decent.
Christian, thanks for stopping. Appreciate it. Here's Max Verstappen.
Much cooler conditions than we were expecting in the first session, but looking pretty good for you in both.
Yeah, well, the first one I didn't really do a lot of running. We had some testings on the car, and they didn't seem to do what we wanted, so I lost quite a bit of laps there. But the second practice was all right, I think. Still quite a few things to understand, but it's been a positive Friday in general.
I know you were saying yesterday you were looking forward to this one to see how you and the team compared to Mercedes after so many races at tracks we're not used to going to. Do you think you've got any answers out of today, or will it only become clearer as the weekend progresses?
It will become clearer, but I mean, you can clearly see that quick again. There was also no surprise about that. But from our side, we just need to focus on getting an even better balance in the car, and then just focus on the race, because the tires here they're quite tricky. There's a lot of degradation lap after lap.
And maintaining the fronts as well seemed to be an issue for both you and Alex.
Yeah, a little bit, but there are still a few things to look into for qualifying performance. But also you don't want to fully focus on qualifying because the race, like I said, is quite aggressive on tyres.
How far off the perfect balance are you right now?
It's never perfect, to be honest. You can always find things where you think it can be better, but still a little bit.
Talking about things being better, Pirelli giving you the first taste of the 2021 tyres today. What did you think?
I mean, it's difficult to know what compounds we were running, but we were a bit all over the place, to be honest, in terms of grip and balance. So we'll look into that and we'll speak to Pirelli about it.
Thanks, Max.
Not a glowing review. Right, okay, the McLaren boys, 7th for Lando Norris, 13th for Carlos Sainz. Let's start with the Spaniard.
Carlos, can you just sum up your Friday running for me?
Yeah, it was actually pretty positive. Car feels good. The balance it was okay since the start, and we managed to try quite a few things, but without really changing too much the car balance, because I was happy straight from the beginning. And thanks to that, smooth Friday. Couldn't get a lap on the soft there. P2 would have put us higher up the standings, but in general, happy.
You made the softs last, though. I think you did the most laps of anyone, 10 laps on those softs in the end. What were they like when you came in at the
end? I mean, it's good fun because finally there's a bit of deck, so you have to manage the tires quite a lot, and you have to look after them a lot, and every lap you do, you go slower, and it's a bit of a mental battle trying to control yourself, not to push too hard, and I think it's going to be an interesting race here because there's quite a lot of deck in all 2 or 3 compounds that we're going to use on Sunday. So I think we're up for an exciting Sunday.
Different strategy options, you think, coming into play?
There's pretty much every kind of strategy. I think the hard doesn't look too bad because it's the medium of last year. At the same time, you have the medium that is the soft of last year, which was a very good tire, and the soft of this year that has a lot of pace but a lot of deck. So I don't know. It's going to be a lot of strategic options for us on Sunday, and also going into qualify with this track being such an important race, and being able to overtake, see which tires everyone picks for qualifying and the race, because it's going to be tricky to see who's getting it right.
It's going to be fun to watch. Thanks, Carlos.
Thank you.
And I think that we faced strange days with condition, new tires, dog on track, red flag. Which feeling have you collected from your car?
It's been mixed. I think it's not been the easiest days for me. Not too sure why. I only look into it a bit more, but I struggled a little bit in FP1 just because there was a lot of tyres we were trying and so on, and I didn't get in a good rhythm. But FP2 I was a bit happier. There's still some things for me to work on. I don't feel as confident as what I want to be, but I feel like I can get there tomorrow in FP3 with a little bit more practice and going over the data tonight. So I'm confident, but yeah, just not the easiest of days today.
Some question marks on your race pace?
Is there?
Do you have some question marks on the race pace?
I don't know. I think we have a good understanding of our race pace and what the tyres are doing. So I don't know. We have to look into it more tonight to see what everyone else is doing, because the softs have a lot of deck.
Mosquitoes?
The softs have a lot of deck, so it's not going to be easy. If you're into Q3 starting on a soft tire, it's going to be difficult to do a long stint. So we have a bit of understanding to, what we want to bias towards tomorrow, what we want to choose for tomorrow. But the softs are still the quickest tires, so that's probably what we're going to go for.
Any comment on the 2021 tires?
For me, a little bit trickier to drive, but not a big difference. They're not night and day. It's not like a completely different tire. It's still a similar thing. Just I find it a little bit more stressful.
Grazie.
Okay, before we go, let's hear from the newly crowned 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton, who's got both timesheets today.
A day of 2 halves, starting off in a slightly cooler conditions, slightly wet track to start the day, to get back out.
Oh, great. I felt great to get back out. I mean, I love driving, so today was a bit like a test day though, so not my favorite of days. Obviously qualifying laps is always super fun, but we didn't get to do a lot of that today, so there's a lot of discovery, and but it seemed fine.
In terms of discovery this afternoon, the track getting a little warmer. Anyway, how happy were you with the car?
Not particularly. I wouldn't say that from my side, I'm not particularly happy with the balance I think we've got. But I think everyone's probably in a similar position out there. The track is quite slippery and it's gusty, and this track works the tyres completely night and day different to places like the last race in Turkey, and places like Portimao. So instead of doing a fast out lap trying to get temperature in the tyres, you're trying to go as slow on the out lap to not put too much temperature in the tyres, because it generates a lot of heat. But yeah, we've definitely got some work to do.
Is it a sort of an element of relearning or remembering, going back to the traditional type circuits that we have been on, or we were supposed to be on, to the ones that we've been on, as you say, a slipperier surface, the tracks?
No, we've been driving. We've had these tyres for 2 years, and we've only really had 2 weekends this year that have been quite, much different in terms of getting the tyres working. So it's just back to normal.
Overheating an issue today?
Always. With these tyres, always. With the tyres that we're given, we're always overheating.
I want to talk about the new Pirelli tyres very quickly, if we can. Obviously thrown on today. I believe both the sessions. How were they?
Oh God. I'm trying my hardest not to say anything. Look, what I wanted to say is that weekend in, weekend out, every year, we've got a team here from Pirelli. The guys, I have the utmost respect for the guys that come here and load our tyres up, bring them here and keep us safe. And they do an amazing job. Unfortunately, we've had the same tyre for the last 2 years. At the end of 2019, they brought a new tyre, which each year they normally do, and it was quite a bit worse. So then they just said, okay, now we just keep the tyre that we had from last year. So they've had 2 years now to develop a better tyre, and we've arrived with a tyre that's 3 kilos heavier, and it's like a second worse per lap. And I know for the fans that doesn't really make any difference. From a driver point of view, we're working with brands and partners who are at the forefront of technology and elevating and moving forwards. And if you're going back after 2 years of development, I don't know what's happening. So it definitely doesn't feel good out there, and it's a worry. I prefer to just stay on these tyres if we have, if that's all they've got, and that's the best that they can do, which clearly is. Then it'd be better just to stay with this tyre.
Wow. Pirelli getting a bit of a kicking from all the drivers there. There's some quite strong words there from Lewis about it. What's your take on it?
We don't have to say anything. The 7-time world champion's done it, and they didn't look very good to drive, to be honest. When you saw them on the car with anybody, they looked tricky, but if they're safer, whatever direction they're going, they're already taking downforce off the car considerably next year, so I'm not sure they need to do the upgrade on the tyre if the drivers and teams are not happy with it. But it's above our pay grade to worry about, Simon. It's up to them to do it, and they get paid a lot of money to drive these cars.
Tyre chat. That's enough tyre chat for there. But there we go. Pirelli not having a ringing endorsement from any of the drivers there on the new ones. Now, yes, naughty doggy. No dog jokes from me, but I was quite glad he got away unscathed, because a beauty. Doesn't look like a stray. He's all right. Sebastian Vettel enjoyed it.
I don't say it.
How should we say? Who let the dogs out?
Good old Seb. Oh, it's weird, isn't it? You wait a while for a dog and two come along in the space of 2 weeks. That's the same in Turkey. Actually, we've seen it with groundhogs, haven't we, in Canada? It's good that they cleared it off. We all thought, why have they red flagged it again? But they found the cause.
Yeah, you obviously don't want dogs running around when you're doing. Looking dog though, wasn't it?
It was a very good looking dog. There we go. All right, lots to look forward to this weekend still to come.
Nerys Pearce was a former combat paramedic in the army, but after her life-changing motorbike accident, she's since embarked on a remarkable journey.
It's actually just completely levelled out my disability. It's made my disability a non-event, and that's just something really special.
Normally every year you go to the same tracks over and over again. It's a bit like a routine, And then when things get a bit spiced up and shuffled around, I think it makes it all a bit more interesting.
We wanted it to have more downforce for the same drag.
everyone wants that. We wanted it to have more power. We wanted to make sure that the
qualifying underway from 1 o'clock on Sky Sports F1. Lewis Hamilton, the quickest in both of those sessions. See you tomorrow. Ta-ta.
Sky Sports. Feel it all.
Yeah, guys, that is the end of my practice review. Just done all the interviews that were on there. And, yeah, that's the end. Hope you enjoyed it. Practice 3 is tomorrow and qualifying. I will be doing a live review for that, so yeah. See you later, guys. Toto Hammer. This is Toto Hammer. Like, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Feel free to drop in a follow on Twitch as well. So see you later, guys. Toto Hammer. Bye.